Hey folks, and welcome to Truck King. Sitting next to me today is the Jeep Grand Wagoneer Series 3, and spoiler alert, this thing costs $140,000 here in Canada. So in this video, we're gonna go for a drive, talk about that price point, but maybe more importantly, discuss the brand new Hurricane 3-liter twin turbo that's underneath the hood. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Make sure you stay tuned. Let's start with the walkaround. So when the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer launched, they were V8 only, but both of those V8s have gone away, and now you can only get this engine. That's the 3-liter inline-6 twin turbo. Stellantis calls it the Hurricane. And in this case, because we have the Grand Wagoneer, this is the high output version. So we have 500 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque sent through an 8-speed automatic out of this engine. If you get the base Wagoneer, you get less power, but it is the same engine. Now again, I mentioned this is the Grand Wagoneer, and when you step up to Grand, you get some styling accents that the regular Wagoneer doesn't get. Things like the Wagoneer across the grille there, and the letters are really nice on this. They have this kind of bronze on the inside of them, gives them a bit of a 3D look. You get all the chrome accents across your grille. I love the headlamps too. They just have all these little kind of details to them, not to mention the Jeep Performance LED down the side, and they look like they're almost like a little flashlight. Anyways, those are really cool up there. Coming down the side of our Grand Wagoneer, of course, we do have a set of power running boards. That's always appreciated. And how can I gloss over the wheels? This is a massive set of 22-inch wheels here on our Grand Wagoneer as well. Rolling back, the other thing that sets the Grand apart, you're gonna see all of this chrome accents, all of these chrome accents down the side of the vehicle. Now again, this is totally personal taste. To me, it looks a bit weird outlining all of these windows, and I've never liked the styling of this SUV from kind of the rear 3/4 angle. So you guys can let me know what you think, but to me, it's a bit awkward looking. Let me know what you think of the styling here on the Grand Wagoneer.
Hey everybody, listen, you've heard us talk about the giddy-ups here on the Truck King channel. So this is a new set that I've got in my truck. Now these, unlike the synthetic simple ones that we sold out of last summer, are handmade, all leather, hand stitched. These are unique. These are one of a kind, all made by John out there in Alberta, Canada. And if you're interested in these for your truck, all you have to do is reach out to us at hey@truckking.ca. That's HEY at truckking.ca. We'll send you photos, prices, and delivery information. Do that soon.
Let's look at the second and third rows here on the Grand Wagoneer, and this is incredibly important for a full-size SUV. You're not just buying it for what's up front, you're buying it for all of your passengers, because usually if you're buying something this big, you have a lot of people or a lot of stuff to carry with you. So first of all, I like to start with the baby seat situation. We have captain's chairs here in our Grand Wagoneer. They both have lower latch and they both have top tethers. And then in the third row, you have one lower latch position on the driver's side, but you have 3 top tethers across the third row. So pretty good flexibility when it comes to child seats. And before I get in, I will just point out this massive center console back here for the passengers. Once again, kind of suggests how important the second row passengers are here. You're getting tons of storage, your own cup holders there, which is nice. Not to mention it looks really nice. And then you even have a touch screen down here for controlling all sorts of different things. We'll get more into all the screens later on. So let me climb in. I stand at 6'2", and actually, headroom is a little bit lacking here. I could lean over kind of into where the sunroof is, but I could use a little bit more headroom. I'm a little bit surprised at that. And this seat, that's as low as it goes. Now I can recline, which makes a big difference. So I could just lay back like this, which is pretty nice. But yeah, headroom leaves something to be desired. Loads of knee room here though, lots of leg room, no problem there whatsoever. And I do want to point out too that this seat has many inches of adjustability here for your third row. So if you want to make sure that they have space back there, you can move forward for them. And now let me climb in the third row and see how it is. So there's a button here on the shoulder. And those guys push forward and tumble. And then I can climb back here. Whoop. And there we go. So this is 36.6 inches of third row legroom, which is quite a lot for a third row. And it is enough for me. I do have enough knee room. Once again, this could be adjusted, but as it is, I have enough space here, which is nice. The floor is not too tall. Headroom, kind of funny enough, is almost better in the third than the second for me anyways, maybe because I'm reclined a bit. But again, I have just enough. So even in both rows, headroom leaves something to be desired. But outside of that, this thing is massive. I also have to point out I have a full sunroof back here for the third row passengers, which is pretty cool. Third row passengers are also getting their own cup holders, USB-C ports, which is nice as well. And then this is power recline in the third row, I should point out too. So when it comes to amenities, this thing is pretty loaded up. It's just the headroom I wish there was a little more of. I do have to let you guys know that the Grand Wagoneer we're testing today is the L version. And yes, the L does stand for long because this thing is longer than the standard model. About 7 inches has been added to the wheelbase and about a foot has been added to the overall vehicle. Now, the passenger space is negligibly bigger than the standard model. Where you're getting all that space is behind the third row, because this thing is absolutely cavernous. The fact that your third row is still up and in use and you have this much cargo space, I mean, this is not a vehicle where you have to choose between passengers and stuff. This is a vehicle where you truly can't have both. And I'll just show you a comparison of interior space behind the third row between the Grand Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer L. Now, when it comes to amenities back here, we can look at a couple of things. First of all, storage. There is, underneath your seat there, some nice dividers and stuff down there as well. And then underneath here is your jack, so you can get to your tools, which is handy. The third row there is power folding, so I can hold these buttons. Hopefully it'll work for me. There it goes. And power fold, always handy, and frankly expected on a vehicle this expensive. And then I also have 12-volt power here at the back of the Jeep as well, which is always nice. So yeah, truly just loads of cargo space here on your Grand Wagoneer. Before we take off, let's look at the cameras here in our Grand Wagoneer. So I put it into reverse, and there's your standard view. So you get the rear view, and then the top-down view, and you get those predictive lines, which are cool. You can go through and just get your wide rear cross path view. There's your front cross path, a front narrow view with the top down. And then this view specifically is for hitching up a trailer. You see you get your hitch guideline, plus you get the zoom in, so you could look right down at your hitch right there. I like that the cameras here use the full screen, and the quality of them is pretty good. Although there's no kind of neat tricks like some of the other brands do, like seeing underneath the vehicle or seeing a little 3D image of your vehicle. And you know what? Usually I wouldn't criticize a vehicle for not having stuff like that, but at 140 grand, yeah, actually this Grand Wagoneer could have a couple more cameras, and I wouldn't complain. And as a father of 3 little kids, I always have to point out this feature, the Fam Cam. Yes, you can see all of the positions inside your vehicle, and then when you click on them, it actually zooms in over there on the right side. Now, I have to tell you, this is especially useful when you have kids in rear-facing car seats, because you can see right down to them. You don't have to use a mirror or anything like that. So yes, if you have little kids, you can't beat the Fam Cam. And now, folks, here we are driving in this Grand Wagoneer. So I don't want to gloss over the SUV, Dad, but I got to tell you, I'm excited that we have the Hurricane today. Not necessarily for the Grand Wagoneer, but because it's coming in the Ram 1500.
Very much.
They've now announced the 2025 Ram 1500 will also get rid of its V8s, just like this Grand Wagoneer did, and it will go twin-turbo V6 only. So, sort of with that kind of lens in mind, why don't you put your foot into it? Let's feel the power.
Whoa!
So for a big, heavy SUV, that's pretty ridiculous. Again, this is 500 horsepower. And keep in mind, the high output Ram actually makes a little bit more at 540 horsepower. So, you know what? I think it's already safe to say that, yeah, this thing makes plenty of jam. You know what? You might miss the sound of your V8, but you're not going to miss the power from your V8 because this is plenty, right?
I can't get over what they've managed to do with a 3-liter inline 6, 500 horsepower.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yep, and exactly. And it makes the Grand Wagoneer feel lighter than it is, and it's probably going to be pretty epic in the Ram as well. So power-wise, no worries at all.
Yeah, no worries at all. And of course, we'll get lots and lots of notes from people going, yeah, but how long will it last? Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
However, that's just part and parcel of new engines. We got to see what happens over the long term.
Yep. So no surprise, we found a way to talk about trucks, but back to the Grand Wagoneer. Tell me how it's handling, Dad. We're actually on a bit of a twisty windy here. So again, big, heavy SUV. How's the steering and how's the handling around the corners?
So let's talk about the fact that you would expect a vehicle like this to be very kind of lumbering and rolling through the corners. It does neither.
Mm-hmm.
It's tight. It's actually quite tight, considering how much weight you're pushing through, like I say, the corners. So, you know what, it's well sprung, and not to mention, you know, you can get, what, 7, 8 people in this thing?
Yeah, 7 in this one, yeah.
So that, and then gear, so it does have to carry a lot of weight. And
Sure.
you know what, I think with this vehicle, what we're going to come down to is that there's really nothing I'm going to say that's a negative, except the price.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. That is a fair point. Now, before we get to it, though, we should talk about the interior because that's truly what you're paying for here. The engine's great. The way it rides is great. You can tow over 9,000 pounds just a little bit. So again, great numbers. But truly, you're spending all that money because of everything that's in here. So let's talk about this. First of all, beautiful materials. Love the leather. Love the color combo in the model that we have here. The stitching is great. Grand Wagoneer emblazoned right here in front of the passenger. So those details and the material choices are here. The first thing that stands out in this vehicle is screens, right? We're coming into this new era of more and more screens, and this Grand Wagoneer is leading the way. I mean, I have my passenger screen. We have a second screen underneath our main touchscreen here for seat controls and massage controls and things like that.
A lot of massage controls.
The rear passengers have their own touchscreen to control things. They have their own TV screens too that they can go into and do things on. So the amount of technology here is pretty unbelievable, and every single passenger in here gets something to play with, some kind of screen. So yeah, on the interior front, I think it's right there. I think it's absolutely competitive with other vehicles that cost this much money.
You're right about that. And from a marketing point of view, Jeep said, we're going to throw everything at this, including the kitchen sink. There is nothing that's going to be missing, because there's always that buyer who says, I want it all, tick every box.
Yep.
So, you know, there's no reason to lose those buyers to other brands. And quite honestly, at this price point, you've got some pretty good options, particularly, you know, in amongst the German manufacturers.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, something needs to set this apart. And now we just got to get to the point that it's a Jeep. And I'm saying that as a positive and a negative in this price category. On the positive side, Dad, it is full-time four-wheel drive. You do get select speed. You do get mud, sand, dirt, and rock mode. And you have to just expect that because it's a Jeep, because it has that pedigree, sure, it might be a little better off-road than some of the other SUVs out there. But on the flip side, it's a Jeep for $140,000. At the end of the day, that's a hard sell, I think, to anyone. Mercedes-Benz at 140? Yep. Sure. Audi at 140? Fine. Cadillac at 140? No problem. $140,000 Jeep? That sentence is hard to swallow.
It is, on the one hand. On the other hand, let's also look at the way that people that would buy this actually buy it. First of all, the majority of people probably are going to lease this,
sure,
not purchase it.
Yeah.
Secondly, most people that purchase it are going to purchase it based on, yeah, I can swing that payment every 2 weeks. And nobody is actually expecting to own this outright over any period of time. Again, in this price category, people like to change things up every 3 or 4 years. So the chances that you're ever going to get anywhere near 140 grand in terms of paying that out
Yeah.
is pretty low.
Sure, that is a fair point, and you know, sadly, I think that seems to be the future of car buying. So I think we've established that, you know, whether or not you like the price, you are getting an incredibly luxurious, comfortable, capable SUV. And what I think is actually even more interesting than that, Dad, is the fact that, you know, Wagoneer jumped into this full-size SUV market just 2 years ago. So Jeep had a lot of time to look at the market and decide, how do we jump into this market? And General Motors owns this market. Over half the market of full-size SUVs is Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, Escalade, all those different GMs. So when they jumped in, I actually think Jeep kind of already knew that they weren't going to steal a massive amount of market share from GM and Ford. I'm sure they would have liked to, but I think they recognized how kind of set in its ways this segment is. And so when they jumped in, they said, if we're not going to beat them in overall sales volume, let's beat them on the luxury angle. Let's beat them on the stuff we include in that vehicle so we can drive that price up. And the final point I want to make to drive this home is that in the third quarter of 2023, Jeep has sold roughly 9,000 Wagoneers and Grand Wagoneers. In the same amount of time, Chevy has moved 27,000 Tahoes. Ford has moved 17,000 Expeditions, and Toyota has sold 6,000 Sequoias.
Now,
So
where are those numbers? Are those North American
those are
sales?
Q3 US sales.
U.S. sales. Okay.
That's a great point. That's
in
important.
typical fashion, if you want to know what we sell in Canada, it always ends up being about 10% of whatever the U.S. number.
Sure, but I always look up the US numbers. That's the biggest market for these guys, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with those numbers in mind, this Jeep is not gonna play on a huge volume stage like the Tahoe does. And I truly believe because of that, they went there and said, let's throw, like you said, the kitchen sink at it to make sure we're gonna be able to charge enough to make a lot of money on that thing. Okay, Dad, now I'm exploring the best feature on my screen over here. I can plug in destinations and send them to you.
No!
So, send to driver.
Don't send a driver.
It's time to head to McDonald's.
I don't want to go to McDonald's.
Come on, let's go. There it is.
It is a neat feature, though, that the way the screen projects, I look over, I see nothing but black, which is, of course, a safety thing. And now that they figured out how to do that, yeah, it's kind of nice, you know.
Yeah, and
there's
of course,
a screen. It'll keep your mother occupied.
Well,
There's
that's what I
no
was-
reason for her to talk to me.
that's what I was gonna say. Of course, you know what? I do really want to go to McDonald's, but this was just a joke. But if we were,
Not going to... Yeah, but see over here, it says view and accept.
Yeah.
So I can actually hit the big X.
Yeah, and then I'm screwed.
That's it. We're not going.
mine says proposal not accepted.
Proposal was not accepted. Because if you put one of your kids in front here,
Oh,
you're going to
man.
be getting, I want to go to Dollarama, I want to go to Toys R Us, I want to go to McDonald's.
they're gonna be doing it
Over
from the back.
And over and over.
But yeah, if we were on a road trip and we were out there looking for restaurants or hotels or whatever, it is kind of cool that the passenger can be over here plugging in their things on their own little screen. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this video. Now, no, we're not happy about the way prices are going with large SUVs and pickup trucks in particular, but if you can swallow the price, what you're getting out of this Grand Wagoneer Series 3 is a seriously capable and maybe more importantly luxurious full-size SUV. Now, of course, I need to hear from you. Would you ever spend 140 grand on a Jeep? Well, tell us in the comments. And while you're down below, don't forget to mash that like button, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of the channel, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.